communicate with the manufacturing Glade so I could sell their product to my platform. Now, for Glade, it's not that you don't directly go to those that manufacture it, but the retailers. Who are the retailers? The retailers are the one who's given the product legit that has a contract with the Lysol, the company, Glade, the company. So that's B2B. It's important that you know how to communicate to your from business perspective to another business perspective. So it's different when you write a B2B article. It's mostly corporate writing. It's mostly laying down um, who you are, what the company is all about, its strength, and what it does. And if you put it together, they will be received by their target, another business, which is their target. So if I'm the business who read it, I would be convinced to invest on Lazada. I would be willing to invest and become a retailer. As you can see in Lazada, there are two. If you look for a product, there are too many names. Say, for example, give me a product, Lysol. There are like 100 of companies that sells Lysol under the under the Lazada platform. Now, it's not as if that if you look for Lazada, look for Lysol, the brand, you get to talk to one seller only. No, Lazada is just the platform. You'll see all hundreds of companies listed, whether small business, big ones, posting the availability of the products, right? So that means it's business to business. Lazada as a platform writes a story in order to convince people to sell their products in their platform. So that's business to business. So it's a different kind of publicity writing when you're a brand, Nokia for example, you write uh, to tell the customers or the target customers that there's the latest phone and this is the feature of the phone and it's now available for sale. And then you would see there are too many set stores where it's available. So, but Lazada would make Nokia's a brand popular by not approaching Nokia, but by approaching the one that sells the brand. So that's the difference between a B2B and a B2C. B2C is direct to the customers. B2C is to convince the customer for immediate purchase, for immediate buy of the product. Like iPhone, for example, they do publicity to say that Apple is available, iPhone is available, and that they will launch this, and that these are the features. And then when you look at their websites, you can see all the writings about iPhone, say iPhone 12, before a month before it's launched. So that's the strategy there. It's a B2C thing. B2C in the sense that I am Nokia, I am iPhone, I give a freebie to my customers. I write a publicity so that my customers would know what the product is all about. However, a B2B is um, I am Lazada. I want to sell the brand Nokia, but I will not approach Nokia. I will approach the resellers of or the retailers of Nokia. I will tell them to post their available products in my platform, which is Lazada. I will review their business model, and if it pass the business model, if they're giving the right legit materials, then I would sign up with them. Lazada will sign up with them and say, okay, You can now sell your Nokia brands in my platform, which is the Lazada. So that's it. So uh, it's is it important to know how to make a B2B story? Yes, because right now you're still studying, but when you graduate, definitely when you graduate, you'll end up either a reporter or a communications writer within an organization. Those are the jobs, or you will be teaching, or you will be a consultant, or you can put up your own agency. But at the end of the day, this B2B writing is important, especially now that the linear way of doing things, like if I want to buy, I go to the mall, I pay and I get the product. That's the past. But right now, you can purchase anything online. You can purchase anything from anyone who is really selling products. So the danger is, what if they're selling the non-legit products? Then people ended up being fooled.
It's 10 o'clock.
So what does that mean? uh, you have to know that there are too many ways to communicate and too many ways to promote either the business or the product of the business. So things like that. So what are the examples of B2B companies? It's flashed on the screen right now. F5 Networks, Intel, Amdocs, Oracle, Alibaba Cloud, IBM. Okay, let's go to Intel, because Intel is the most, everybody knows Intel. Because ever since the technology began, there's always this: when you purchase a desktop or a laptop, it says Intel inside, right? Because there's HP, there's Lenovo, there's Asus, there's Acer, but all these players that produces desktops and laptops, they are all partners of Intel, because their product is the one that's being used to power all these desktops or laptops. Now, where comes the B2B scenario here? Intel is a business, so they have to make connections with another business. And in this case, it is Lenovo, it is Acer, it is Asus. Intel is the same as AMD. They're the two competing products, right? That provides power and capacity and capability to the products being manufactured. So Intel will not go to Mohammed or Yoling to sell Intel, right? Intel would go to Lenovo, would look for HP, would look for Asus, because they would negotiate with them that, can you please put Intel inside? And you know what? In all the profits that HP, Acer, Asus, Lenovo would have, they are part of it. But they do not communicate to the customers, right? Intel never says, "Oh, buy me and empower your desktop." No, because for one, you cannot buy it separately, and you cannot put it there, because only the engineers can do that. All right. So that's a clear picture of B2B. Intel writes a story that is not meant for you, but is meant for the manufacturers. So that's B2B. Same as Oracle, same as IBM, because the services they do, the engineering, the products that they produce, is part of the whole technology that we feel right now. It's everywhere, but you don't see the brand there. Now, I know you know IBM, the now become Lenovo, right? We know that. It was known to be like that. But did you know that IBM has a wealth of services you are not aware of? that they're the one powering all this desktop that you have at home. They're the one powering all the laptops and everything that could see, because theirs is the part of the product. It's the one they manufacture it, they develop it, and make sure that the right partner puts it in their technology, and uses their technology, and uses that in their gadgets. Okay, so these are the names. So when you read a story about Oracle, have you noticed? I don't know, any of you who've read a story in the newspaper about Oracle? It wasn't meant for you. It wasn't meant for you, but it's still published, right? It is meant for the prospects, their partners. Like if in the Philippines, or if it's in Indonesia, they write a story about Oracle. It's about the technology. It's about what they do. It's about what makes them different from their competitors, so that the manufacturers would be convinced that let's partner with Oracle instead. So it's the decision makers being tapped whenever you read. That's why when you read an Oracle story or an Alibaba cloud, you're not interested, right? Like, say, Nadia would look at the newspaper, "Oh, what about Oracle?" And then you read it, na, I can't understand this. There are too many technical words that I don't understand. Only an engineer can understand, or only a manufacturer can understand. But how come it is being published in a newspaper? Because at the end of the day, the world needs to understand that there exist companies like this that powers technology. Okay. So that's B2B. And now ask me, is it is it hard to make a B2B publicity, or is it more simpler to do a B2B publicity? My answer is, for B2B, it looks simple, but it's harder, because you have to understand the technology behind it. Now, you would see there are very technical magazines before. In the last 10 years, there's Computer World, Computer Times. I think when you were young, you have seen a copy of this. There are magazines that is focused on B2B only. Because if I am a CEO of a company, I want to make my technology running powerfully, like I'm a bank, I'm a COO of the bank. I would rather read about Oracle than reading about Lenovo the desktop, or Lenovo the laptop. The Lenovo the laptop, it's up for my the purchasing people to decide on that. But the technology behind these names, I need to know as a COO. Because if I use a computer for like my 100 branches, and I need 500 compute or desktop units, I will not look for Lenovo, Asus, because they're the same brand, very good brands. But I look into what's inside. Does it have Intel? Does it have Oracle? Right? You see? So these are the things that it's not easy to write a B2B story unless you understand technical, unless you understand technology, unless you know the technology or the engineering behind that particular brand. So if I could say, like Jessica Janice, for example, I asked her to, hey Janice, can you write a story about Nokia? You can easily relate to it. Oh yeah, I know that Nokia has this feature. I know that it's a smartphone. I know that it's good with cameras and all that. And then you start writing the press release about it to convince the customers, hey, Nokia, this brand 20202 has these features. It is very sleek. It has good design. It is so user friendly, and it's so functionable. Blah 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 blah. Therefore, at the end of the day, you convince the customer, oh, I'd like to buy Nokia instead of iPhone. Something like that. That's a B2C that I asked Jessica to write, then she could. But on the other hand, I told Amira Albiba, like, hey Amira, can you write a story about Oracle? And then if Amira has to have a technical background about Oracle. Amira has to know because the story that Amira will write is not for the customers that is buying directly, but for the CEO or the COO of big companies. And therefore, they are the decision makers. You have to be more careful in terms of convincing them that what you write is the right material. Do you get it? So, question, is it easier to write a B2B publicity? My answer is no. You have to have a technical know-how. You have to know how to talk to the decision makers when you are writing a B2B story. But if you are a good writer and you get to the hone and the craft of it, then it becomes easy. So, B2B writers are very select. You know, they are the one that flourishes in B2B writing are the ones who are geeky, the ones who are very interested in technology, the ones who are up to date to the, like, who can differentiate an Android from a smartphone and an Android and whatever and what have you. Where to me, who's not interested, also, what's that? All those words are foreign to me. Something like that. So at the end of the day, if you have the knack on technology, if you have the knack to understand the powers behind certain brand and to understand why it's there, like Intel, Oracle, Alibaba, the one that empowering all these brand, you know, if you have that knack, then give it a shot and be a very good B2B writer. Now, the question, Miss Anna, do I have a future if I ended up, deciding to become a B2B writer? Yes, because the world right now is revolving so much about technology and innovation. And if you're up to that, and if you are able to understand that, there's a scarcity of writers. Scarcity meaning there are very few who explore that. So therefore, the more opportunity that you could land a job, right? Because in the B2C realm, there's a lot of competition. There's a lot of features writer. There's a lot of storytellers. There's a lot. Almost everybody can write and express themselves in different ways. But this is a niche expertise, very niche. So I myself, admittedly, I cannot I cannot be a I cannot um, go full time. I understand, I know how to write B2B, but I can't go full time because it's not really my interest. But I have to have an understanding about it because I am a communications practitioner. You must know, for example, on how to help your organization or how to help your client reach its target market. And part of it is understanding everything. However, if you want to be an expert on things, you could start with becoming a B2B writer. And mind you, there are a lot of companies looking for one. The big companies who can make your life and job so stable, the opening for Silicon Valley, because they need this kind of writers. The one that understands how things are being manufactured, what's the technology behind this and stuff. So if you have the knack, like I see that, if you're younger and you're very good in building Legos and you're very good in, figuring out how to finish a brick puzzle, and I think there's an opportunity for you to get this immediately. It's not that hard. Even a features writer can do this, yes, definitely. But it depends on how far you would want to go or how far you would want to explore and learn. So for those people who are not afraid to touch things and are not afraid to make your gadgets, ruin your gadgets, and make you fix your own thing at home, you fix your own, and then you're a writer, you can have an opportunity and a good learning for B2B writing, because that gives you an idea that you're open to learning and finding out how things are done and how things are put together. Okay, so next slide, let's go to uh, the three C's that make B2B PR work. Okay, concentrate on your audience. As I've mentioned, it is a very niche audience. It is not everyone. Your audience is not the customer, it's not everybody. You have a very specific audience. Like for example, if your product is on technology behind banking, then your audience is the banking industry. Therefore, you have to concentrate on them and make sure that the way you write things, the what you write is particularly for this banking market. So that's how. Number 2C, create content that resonates with your audience. Okay, this is the difficult part. As I've mentioned, this is technical, right? This is very technical, technological, etc. How do you make it sound layman? How do you make it sound non-difficult to understand, right? And usually, when we edit a story within the agency, there's a lot of editing because an engineer writes differently and an engineer has a different terminologies for things. So what a writer does is that he understands and asks the engineer, what do you mean by this? What is this? It's a technical term. Then you explain it in layman's term, meaning something that would be understood by a COO who's not an engineer, or a CEO, the decision maker, who doesn't understand those terminologies. So there goes the next difficulty. For B2C writers, it's easy. You just write for the customers and you can write anything, all the words, the simpler the better. Same with this, but on the other hand, there are too many terminologies that you have to put it in a way that would be understood by common tao, common people. All right, because if you write a B2B story that is too technical, too complicated, nobody would read it. All right. And not all COOs or COOs who are your targets understand it. Okay. Number 3, choose the right platform. Okay. This is a good one. It goes the same with B2C. Um, choose the right platform. If your client is Intel, so what's the platform to be used? Where do you put your stories? Question. Social media platform. Is it Facebook? Is it Twitter? Is it Instagram? Or is it LinkedIn? The answer is LinkedIn. Okay, why? Because the business people, the CEOs, the CFOs, the CTOs, the CEOs are all, the priority platform for them is the LinkedIn platform, right? When you're looking for a job, you look for LinkedIn, right? Because there's where you get all the companies that offers this particular, and all, like for example, if I'm a PR journalist, PR practitioner, just one click in LinkedIn, I would know who the practitioners are, who the companies that, who are the agencies, who are the companies that needs practitioners like me. So it's all in LinkedIn. So what this C means, choose the right platform. Do not post or distribute your story, B2B story, to everyone. From the very start, we mentioned that it has a niche, NICHE. It has a very niche market. So therefore, choose the platform that caters to that market. Okay. Uh, Choose the right platform, choose the right medium, choose the right avenue. Okay, for example, I want to convince businesses to sell a product that would make the cracks in the buildings go away whenever there's earthquake. Wow, I don't know where it came from. But, it's very technical. And who do you approach? The construction companies, right? Because they will be your buyers. So what kind of story do you tell? I will tell a story about how my product is really good, that it can help the construction companies with their problems of like being blamed for uh, a very non-stable foundation in the buildings that they do. Things like that. So those are just examples. So very easy, right? Concentrate on your audience, create a content that resonates with your audience, and choose the right platform. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, press release, tone, and structure. How is B2B being written? Next slide, please. It is this. You will have these materials with you. The structure and value. Okay. This is like, we call it the inverted pyramid. When you write a publicity, whether it's B2B or B2C, should be inverted pyramid. Any one of you who've heard about inverted pyramid already? Yeah, right. You have studied it in most of your lessons. When you write a story, it should be inverted pyramid. This won't change forever. Okay, inverted pyramid is that most important, intro captures the main points, next most important, and least important. Okay. To give an example, most important would be the headline. For non B2B, say customer, for example, the headline: iPhone launches a very sleek with the best camera compared to all existing phones in the market. The most important is you want to highlight on the camera part because that would make it saleable. So the most important is to highlight on those things and when it will be launched, the who, what, when, where, how. You read the first paragraph that has it already, but then you put the explanation on the next one, which is the next most important. And then after that, the least important. In a story, if you're a PR practitioner, what is the least important? And those are the things that should be edited by the editors. You want to put it there, but at the end of the day, you know the editors would edit it, but you have to put it anyway. Okay, what are those? For more information, please contact this, blah, blah, blah. For more, if you want, the product is available at this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stores. At the end of the day, that's the least important in your press release. But your client would demand, hey, Mustika, why did you not put my the contact details there? How can they purchase from me? As an agency writer, you would say, I put it there, but unfortunately, the editor edited it. So, and then you send her an email. This is what I sent to the editor. Unfortunately, the editor feels that it is the least important in the story, so he deleted it. So, okay, as a writer, you should know what the client wants in your story, but understand that the editors, that if this is more likely to be deleted, put it in the least important part. Yeah. Don't put the contact details in the middle of the story. When you're writing, you have to develop it. You put everything, the story, in the first two paragraphs. And then afterwards, you explain all these two paragraphs into three more paragraphs. And then after the three paragraphs, put what the client wants you to put there. And then if it gets edited, it's okay. Because at the end of the day, the editor would still publish your story. All right, so that's it. It's always an inverted pyramid. The structure, inverted, follow the who, what, when, where, how, and why, reporting style, tone, journalistic, okay. Miss Anna, what is a journalistic tone? It is objective, it is factual, it is relevant, it is timely. And always remember this in third person point of view. All right. There is no I in writing. It's always we, it's always third person. They, she, he, them, you know. And journalistic is you cannot write based on your own opinion. You cannot write your own opinion unless you become a columnist, right? That's why you're columnist. You write your own opinion. But if you're a journalist, you are to check facts. You have to balance everything. And you know, the most enduring media outfits, are the ones that does a journalistic way of uh, reporting. In the Philippines, there are two programs, stations, ABS-CBN and GMA. Unfortunately, ABS-CBN closed down, and the only thing left is GMA at this point. But not siding with GMA, but based on my analogy on dealing with them, GMA, when it comes to news and public affairs, they're the ones that present items in a very journalistic manner. No biases, not opinionated, but just straight to the point, straightforward information. So I don't know in Indonesia, but I think people would love more that the things that they hear has no opinions in it, that it's a news. At the end of the day, it's a news. The opinion should be by the customers, not by the writer, right? If you write something and you strongly believe in something, present the facts, but not say that or side on things. You always have to balance it. It's difficult, I know, because sometimes you know the truth already, but you have to make a story that ensures that it is clear from any biases. And that's the most difficult part in being a journalist. Because we always have our opinions, we have always our point on things, right? But as a journalist, you have to be objective. You can't be subjective. Should be objective, factual, relevant, and timely. Okay. Now, unfortunately, nowadays, in your generation, it's sad to know that a lot of fake news persist. You know, Miss Anna, if this is the way to do things, how come right now there are too many fake news? There are too many news that, are not true at all. When people post it in their Facebook, they make it appear that it's true. They make it appear that it was researched. So at the end of the day, this is my call. There are a lot of those paid people to do fake news for political reasons and for survival reasons. There's an army of fake news writers being paid more than what they should be paid for just so they could produce fake news. It is very evident in the election of Trump in the US that it was very much influenced, and proven fact that it was influenced by the Russians, technology, as well as the fake news movement. And because of the social media platforms, you can easily get information. You can easily get, you think it's data. But you as journalism students, you as taking public relations, please, 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 be journalistic. Don't get swayed by high fees just so you could write an inverted um, pyramid structure, but it's not true. The fake news writers can do the inverted pyramid, the most important, next important, least important. They can write so well. But you know what? You should stick with what is true and what is right. And And not only that, you should know how to identify fake news. In the Philippines, for example, I always tell my people that there is a need for change, and only the young ones can change this because you are the recipient of this. You can tell if I don't like fake news. I know how to distinguish a fake news. Therefore, I am not going to let them prosper. Therefore, when I see news in the social media platforms, I won't easily believe it. I will have a quick fact check. I would do my own research. I will not believe immediately. And then I would only go to the right legit sources. Okay. During the pandemic, before the pandemic, I mean, a lot of big publications are dying. A lot are just trying to survive. And I'm talking New York Straits Times, Wall Street Journal, all this. They're so big, you know. And I know there's one in Indonesia or Jakarta, same in our country. And then being castigated by the government because they're the ones that says the truth so that people would know. So, but the sad thing is that um, they're dying because people millions of people depend on news. They think that what they see in the social media platform is news. Everybody posts something and it's news. And but without even checking facts, they no longer want to buy papers because they can just search and do it in their phones, right? Unfortunately, there are too many mechanisms and there are too many people doing it the wrong way. And sometimes a person who believed it without checking it would post it, and then another person would also believe it and post it and share it and all that. At just 30 minutes, the news is widely spread. But at the end of the day, it's not the right news. It's not checked. So what happened? Uh, Prior to pandemic, these newspapers are slowly dying and closing. In the Philippines alone, for example, we have 13 daily newspapers in the Metro Manila area, National Capital Region. It dwindled to just 8, almost got into half. And then later on, only 7 is really operating well. And those are the institutions already 100 years old, 25 years, 35 years old publication. And admittedly, at this point, they're still dying. But after the pandemic, you know what happened? Everywhere in the world, not only in the Philippines, but worldwide, the legit newsmakers, the legit newspapers saw this opportunity to provide the news that the people need, which is journalistic, which is objective, which is factual, which is relevant, and which is timely. There was a time in March, April, and May when the postings in the social media is all about COVID, everything until now, it's about COVID-19, right? But as a responsible individual, you just don't believe what a friend posted in there unless you're sure it's from a legit publication, right? Did it happen to you? So suddenly, people are looking for legitimate news. Suddenly, they forget about believing in the most postings that they see on a day-to-day basis. Suddenly, New York Times right now is recuperating very well. Wall Street Journal, it is recuperating very well. Nikkei Asia in Japan is really getting the traction and the subscribers. What happened was people knew that prior to pandemic, it doesn't matter. But during the pandemic, I think only New York Times can release the a factual information about COVID. I could no longer believe in, oh really, in 2 days you die. Because now it's your life at stake. Now you have to dig deeper. Now you have to get legitimate sources of information. So that's the situation right now. Now, ask me what's happening to New York Times. They're thriving and they are coping up really well. Prior to pandemic, they are dwindling, dying, but right now they are making up for the losses. Why? Because at the end of the day, people would still want to see the truth. People would still want to know what's objective, what's factual, what's relevant, and what's timely. Okay, so there. Let's go to the next slide. Fundamentals. Okay. Empathize with your audience. What do they care about? What are their pain points? Okay. Number two, spot what's important about a complex looking subject. Okay, this is always a problem. You know, if you, as I've said, if you're not a techie or someone that's interested about complex looking subjects and afraid to touch gadgets, then this is not for you. This writing is not for you. Just like me, when I was young, I don't want to touch our television or radio because I thought that only a person who understands how to fix it should be the one touching it. So I'm afraid to touch gadget even until now. I'm so careful in like manipulating my phone that if I push this, I'm afraid I might lose all my contacts. If I push this, if I push the wrong button, I might lose all my data. So I'm so afraid. I'm not a very adventurous person when it comes to technology. So admittedly, I don't like to write B2B stories. But it's just me. Now, as a communications practitioner, okay, if you don't like it, understand it at least. But if you are into this, get into this. There's a space for you. Okay. Next, tell the story in a simple manner. Yan, simple, compelling way. You don't overcomplicate things. You don't use fabricated words. You don't use highfalutin words. The words that is like you only know because you look at the Merriam-Webster. Oh, I want to use this word. They don't know this. And then if they ask, why do you use this word? What's that? And everybody's like cringing, like looking like this and say, what is he talking about? Oh, it's a new word. Superpragilistic aspialidocious. You don't do that in writing. You don't write to impress. Okay. That's the thing. You don't write to impress. You write to tell a story in a very simple, compelling way. Okay. Next slide, please. So these are the examples of from our company. These are the examples of B2B thought leadership article. It is more on like if you are from Intel, you tell them what Intel is, what it is championing, what they produce, what makes them relevant in the universe, what makes them important with their businesses, what makes them relevant in this time. So that those are stories for them. And thought leadership is you should select the right spokesperson from the organization to be the one bylining the article. Okay. Miss Anna, are those byline articles truly written by them? Okay. The answer is no. It is the agency, it is their writers who does it for them. And then they just use the name of the person. But at the end of the day, those writers, those the by who said byline, like say the CEO of the company, of course he reviewed it, but he is not definitely the one who wrote it. There is a case-to-case basis when a CEO and a person is really good at writing, they write it. But most of the time, 99%, it is being written by the in-house writer. Because thought leadership is something that is refined, something that is well thought of, factual research, and you can just do it, because you feel like writing. So yeah, and you have to know the strength of the company. You have to know your unique selling proposition. You have to know the advantages of their companies over other competitors in the market. That's why it's called thought leadership. Okay, another B2B is customer testimonial. Like Oracle, I don't understand this product, but a certain niche market understands it. So I will write something like, someone who experienced the product and who knows how good the product is and put it into writing. There's a testimony there. It's a case study. There's a testimony. So therefore, if I am the one wanting to partner with the likes of Oracle and its competitors, and I read a story about this about Oracle, then I go for Oracle. Because at the end of the day, customer testimonial is the one that would convince whether you're a customer or a business also to dig into the product and to embrace the business. Okay. Newsjacking. Okay. Okay, probably this is a new term for you. Newsjacking is one of the best practices in B2B publicity. Um, uh, it's newsjacking. A B2B company should keep an eye out for relevant industry news where it can proactively serve as a reliable source of information. What does that mean, newsjacking? For example, there's a much talk about issue on certain things on technology right now. Newsjacking is the communications person within that organization would find out what's trending today. What's the most talked about topic today? And then the writer writes a story, use their expertise, marry it with what's trending story, then therefore they take a part of that conversation. They're part of it conversation, right? So for example, so many are talking about uh, the technology behind iPhone, for example. And then Microsoft, for example, has that thing in that iPhone, or that put in that iPhone, and therefore he would, and a lot of people are giving rave good reviews on the iPhone. Then I, as Microsoft, I understand. I put something in that feature. What do? I will ask my writer, okay, this is trending right now. They don't know that behind that technology is Microsoft. So write something about it so that people would know that that technology became available and happened, and the feature was achieved because we are the ones behind it. So that's newsjacking. It's more on like the person, the writer within the organizations keeps on thinking, what do I write? What do I write for the company? Look at the newspapers. What's trending right now? Where can I give my take? Where can the company give its take on the story? Then start writing. Then you're part of a big conversation. Then you put your brand into a good uh, limelight, into the limelight. Then your company is highlighted. Then being part of a conversation is a big deal. Did you know? Within a very niche industry and you're part of the discussion, that means you're a good brand. And therefore, if I'm still trying to figure out which company to partner with, and I keep on hearing your name, keep on reading your participation and take on things, then therefore it must be good. They must be stable. They must be reliable. So therefore, I would engage myself with them. So that's it. See, these are the three important things why B2B writing is important. Next slide, please. Yeah. So business journal types. You see this in the newspapers, right? That's also B2B. It's making their CEOs look really good. It's making their company look very dependable, stable, and most sought after, and something that you want to partner with. Did you know that most companies put so much time in identifying who the face to be used in all this? It's a selection. It's like making a movie. Who could act better? Who could be more relatable? Who should we use? So all big companies choose the right representative or spokesperson for this simple reason. They will be the face of the company. All right. For example, Elon Musk, the one behind Tesla. Okay. Did you know that he never spent allocated budget for advertising? He just did everything through his personal brand in the social media platform. You know, he'd never spent any amount on advertising, which everybody does. But he is the right face of the organization because number one, he's a good talker. He believes, he's so passionate. He believes in the technology. He's the best spokesperson ever. If I could have Elon Musk in my company without, spending money for advertising, I would hire him because just by himself, just by talking, I could convince millions of people believing in the product. And then, why is he so popular? Because he focused on two things: technology and a passion or a advocacy. The technology in itself is amazing. Can you imagine a car powered by solar, running on its own without gas? You're killing the industry of oil, and you're killing the oil and transportation industry as a whole. And there are too many big names: Toyota, Suzuki, Ford, etc. You're killing them, right? And he never spent a single cent in advertising. How is that? Because the face is already the fortune. The person is already the fortune. He loves protecting the environment. And I was like telling this in a different class last night. My 8-year-old son, last year, now he's 9, did a project. And I was surprised because I'm not meddling with his, assignments and stuff. He talked about Elon Musk. And then I said, I'm not truly that familiar because I'm a very busy person. I hardly look on Elon Musk. And then I said, oh, so why did you use him? You know what, mommy? Because he produces and he makes all the cars that runs without gasoline, etc., etc. And he was an 8-year-old kid. And then he said, he's very good speaker and he's so passionate about what he does. He said we should need to protect the environment. So, mommy, if you go to McDonald's, you don't ask for straw. You ask for a glass that's paper, not plastic. Because if you do so, I'll be unhappy because you're worsening the situation of the environment. And did you know he sees this while Elon Musk is talking? So that's how powerful this guy is. Even a young person can be convinced by him. Even the oldest one can be convinced by him. Probably because he has the best uh, proposition, which is technology, and you can never go wrong with that. How could you produce a car that runs on itself and can really run without a gasoline that pollutes the environment? And then go on with the environmental advocacy that sooner or later there's no longer fumes, there's no longer gas that could harm my lungs and my environment. So where can you go wrong with that? And then it's so factual. So these things, and as a communications practitioner, you should know and how to spot that person in the organization. Because spotting that person would mean a good future for your company and less expense at the same time. So it would give you good profit. So anywhere Elon Musk goes, prospers. As well as Seth Godin, as well as Neil Patel, as well as Oprah. You know these people because they are the right face to the organization. Okay. So when you are already working in a corporation or you have your own company, please, 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 and remember this: choose the right spokesperson, choose the right face to to your organization because it spells a big difference in the way to go. All right, next slide, please. Okay, types and characteristic of business journals. This is self-explanatory. There's regional business, there's trade, there's scholarly, and there's consumer. So those are the types. And of course, the last slide, please. Um, Thank you and salamat. So yeah, at least I'd like to impart with everyone how important it is to understand the difference between a B2B and a B2C publicity. Last week we studied about B2C, and most likely you will start with that. If you're working and you just start working, this is you'll be bombarded and you'll be given a lot of um, loads or job on this one. But if you have the knack on technology, if your mind is open to knowing the very details behind every technology, I suggest and I recommend you try B2B publicity writing. There is so much space for that, and there's so much there are too many companies looking for that right person. And who knows, you could probably do your own a platform and specialize on that and be the that person who's being sought after by most companies in Indonesia, looking for a company that really likes good B2B stories. You can even put up a company of your own, just specializing on B2B writing. You only need an engineer to explain the technical and words with you. You have to have a research person, and you as a writer have to have a knack on understanding everything. Then you could put up your own company catering to B2B publicity. So that's a good business venture, I should say. So at the end of the day, probably 3 years from now, any one of you who take that path, ping me, text me, message me, and I will congratulate you. So there's the lesson for publicity. Miss Ita, what do you think? We still have 10 minutes, so most probably let's just focus on the question and answer on this one. What do you think?
Yeah, sure. Is there any question? Please ask Miss Anna. Brandon? Ya, saya nanya.
Okay, so actually, is there any like tips from you, Miss Anna, for
Mm.
write to B2B press release? Because the structure is basically like B2C structure press release,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
And aside of we must write from the objectifical, and we must write from business perspective. Is there any tips to stand out our press release in the media to publish it
Yeah.
from?
Okay. Usually the B2B publicity and the acceptance of B2B is more on the craft, on making your stories relatable and in layman's term. When I say in layman's term, because B2B story, it's seriously very technical stories. Now, as a writer, you should understand and know how to convert the technical words into a word that can simply be understood by your target. And usually that's the most difficult job. You know, by experience, um, we have a lot of B2B clients at Ardent Communications. And usually, the editor would call us, would you believe? The editor would call us and sometimes be very straightforward. Hey, Anna, we don't understand this story. How can we publish it? And then I'd look at the story and yeah, this is how this is the best we could translate it. All right, this is the best we could put it. The next step is not to tell the editor that it is the best way we can write the story. No, they will no longer entertain you in the future. So what you need to do is that formulate a strategy. Usually what we do is that we go to the offices of the editors, bring in some expert, and give a one-on-one session with the editors, because there are things that can't be translated into layman's term, especially if it's technology. So therefore, the next step is, if you cannot translate it or use another word for it that will not disrupt the understanding on the whole totality of the story, and the editor complained about it already and said that I won't publish it because it's too technical, then what you need to do is be kind to the editor and call him personally and ask him that, hey, Mr. Editor, I understand your dilemma. I understand the concern here. We are actually having a hard time putting it in layman's term as well. And I know that, however, the niche market would understand it, but I understand that, at the end of the day, the editor should understand it as well, not just the target. So what we're going to do is, when is your most available time where we can bring in the client and the engineer to further explain this matter? There are two answers that you're going to get. One is the possibility of him saying, yes, okay, I have time to listen. And two, okay, send me all the materials, and I'll send in an email to that particular person and ask all the questions. So it's more on bridging. So if you're done with writing and you did everything you could to put it the best way it should, and still being questioned by the editor, the next step is to talk to the editor and fully understand where he's coming from, and bridge that gap where he would be able to understand. And you know what? We've done this for around 8 editors, uh, 5, 6 years ago. And you know what? Until this very moment, we have built a good rapport with them, because that's what they need to know and they need to hear. Because editors need to be educated as well, especially if it's B2B. B2C, that's their expertise. They can delete, they can replace, they can, they can do anything about the story, because it's simply the product, the features, what they want to say, and then direct to the buyers. But if it's B2B, it's so complicated. So what you need to do, there are few steps in order to do that. So those usually work. Now, as a writer, you can only interpret it the best possible way, and you can always use the inverted pyramid. But it's also good to um, try your best to understand the technicalities and talk to the right people within the organization. Demand your boss to give you, who is the engineer. I want to talk to him so that I can put this in a very layman's term. It's like solving mathematics. If you don't know the formula, even if you crack your brain on the wall, you can find the answer. But if you try looking for a help, to explain the formula to you, then you could get the answer. So that's typically the B2B, how to approach B2B writing. But again, there are people who has really good knack on it, and if you're that person, yeah, you could really make a good impression with the editors. 6 years ago, we have a problem with that, and right now, somehow we know how to cut it, trim it, and make sure that if it's too complicated, we tell the client, this is the type of story that we did our best in editing it and putting it in layman, and still at the end of the day, it's still too technical. Can you please do something about it from your internal comms team? And then I'll see what I can do. Transparency, honesty, and reacting to it immediately are the key. All right.
Thank
Thanks,
you, Miss.
Brandon. Mm-hmm.
Any other question? We still have time.
Mm-hmm.
Ayo.
I
Monggo
have
Miss
my
Ananya masih. Jessica, okay.
um, Miss Anna told when people want search a job is more effective when we search on LinkedIn. But sometimes people share a job on Instagram. In your opinion, where is the more effective for search a
Oh,
job?
okay. It depends on all these platforms and mediums are relevant in any communications industry, in any corporation. So There are a lot of things that you need to know as a communications practitioner. Uh, on top of mind would be a simple press release origination or writing a story, whether it's B2C or B2B. And then business communication. Business communication is writing for the organization, internal. So those things, it's really the craft. And then there's this digital PR. The digital PR is writing a press release and making sure that it is appropriate for digital audience, something like that. As you know, the traditional, and then making it shorter, then it becomes relatable and it becomes publishable in the social media platform. So digital PR, traditional PR, business communications, regardless of whatever you choose, feel yourself, ask yourself which is your strength, and concentrate on it. When you're applying, know where your strength is. Be transparent with the one who's hiring you. You tell them your weaknesses, because you know what? Most agencies would want those type of approach so that they would know how to lead this person. Because in writing, there are specializations too. Okay. You have to understand everything, but there's such specializations. You can specialize on B2B. Everybody should know B2C. That's one. But you can specialize on B2B, and you can specialize on business communication. It's 11 o'clock. Business communication is another thing, right? Internal, right? And nowadays, it is very important that you're really good in that, because you're writing to the people of the organization. During pandemic, everything is disrupted. Psychologically, everybody's having a hard time. As a communications practitioner within the organization, how do you craft the stories for them? How do you craft the memos for them? What are the stories that you choose to put up in the newsletter? So you have to be very, very careful. Now, to answer your question, specializing is also a good thing. Now, in my company, I'm training 10 people just on content, narrative storytelling needed for digital. Okay. There's a specific group of people whose passion and whose expertise is on content development. Then we train them there. There's also a group of people who's into specializing features and customer writing, and then we mentor them on that area. We don't demand that all of them specialize on everything and be jack of all trade. No, we tell them you should understand all aspects of writing, but I'd love to put you where you're strong at. So within my organization, I have group of people specializing on corporate writing. There's a group of people specializing on content creation. You know, the content creators, they should be good writers and creative at the same time, because you have to combine both the creative features of your content plus the content itself. And I call them abstractors, writers. There are also group of people within the organization that from a press release comprised of 300 words, they have to make it a content for the digital platform. Make it like 50 words, something like that. So I call them abstractors. So those in my organization, at the very least, are the type of writers and the type of clustering them. So, for example, Jessica, you want to apply, you should know what your strengths are. If you're not too technical, don't apply yet for B2B writing, because you would have a hard time. Your 6 months would be dragging, because you are the type of person who doesn't want to dwell with, for example, very technical stuff. And your mind cannot absorb. That's why I don't like math. I have the lowest grade in math, because I don't want to absorb algebra, You know, I don't want to know the physics of like who's faster, the car or the fly inside the car. It doesn't. Those are the things that my mind blocks all the time. So I decided to be what uh, uh, to do the thing that I am most comfortable with and I could still hone, which is talking, speaking, teaching, and writing. Writing feature stories, writing news stories. That's it. But B2B, I give it to another person. I give when I was just starting in the business, I was working with Edelman Philippines. You know, I have this colleague. We both came in the office together at the same time. We were both hired at the same month on the same month, and he's really good in technical writing. And I'm more of a feature literature because I graduated comparative literature, so I'm more on that part of writing. So I was given an assignment. You cannot say no to your boss, right? So, and the assignment given to me was very technical in nature. So, you know what? I really talked to him. You know what? Let's switch. You're given this story. I was given this story. Let's switch and finish our stories together. And you know what? Up till this very moment, he's working with Ardent as well. We became really, really good friends. Because yeah, that's admitting that this is the type of story that I'm not comfortable writing. So find your niche, but don't limit yourself. That's what I'm saying. You should understand everything because you're a communications practitioner, but you can concentrate on where you think you're good at and you're comfortable. Because wherever you're comfortable in doing that, your mind is set to learning more. Your mind is set to knowing more. Then you improve. So yeah, there are challenges like if I don't know how to do this, the more that I should do it. Um, yeah, it happens one in a million. They can succeed. But I say, just like Plato's The Republic, the concept of know yourself, know where you're good at, in terms of writing, know your strength, and then polish that well. Now, if you think already that you have accomplished it already, then move to another one. That's how you do it. You do not do it everything all in. I can do everything. I can be a B2B writer. I can be a B2C writer. I can be a content creator. Yes, you can. But you will end up having no specialization at all. So specialize on something is the key. Okay.
Okay. I think the last question from Jessica is the last question for this session. Thank you so much, Miss Anna, for giving us quite an insight about B2B PR. I hope that we can understand it more, and hopefully in the future we will be able to apply those knowledge into our work.
Yeah.
Okay. Terima kasih semuanya yang sudah hadir ya. Next week we will have the last session with Miss Anna with more interesting presentation.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. I think that's it. Thank you for today. See you next week. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much.
Anna. Thank you,
Thank
ma'am.
you,
Thank you,
ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, ma'am.
Udah absen semua ya.
Udah, ma'am.
Oke, sip. Saya matikan ya. Terima kasih.